Hey ho, the Cheerio friends. Ash here with Gents. How are you? That's great, man. What we're doing today is we're talking about 10 fragrances. Take your collection to the next level and beyond, as my good friend Buzz Lightyear would say. Both niche and designer fragrances in front of me here today. Some absolute stunners, some fantastic smelling fragrances, and also some scents that are a little bit more adventurous. So let's jump into it. Let's check them out. Before we dive headlong into this list, let me give you some codes very quickly. Let's see how quick we can do it. MaxAroma.com, TwistedLily.com, Gents10 will save you 10% off either of those websites. So if you shop there, save yourself a little money. LuckyScent.com, the code is Gents2022, at least as of when I'm filming this video. In the future, I'm sure it'll change, but that will get you 10% off as well. So if you're on the lookout for some sick fragrances at any of those websites, save yourself a little money. And then of course, I want to remind you once again that my absolutely killer and my completely not biased opinion fragrances, Terra Nova and Blue Ridge, along with the re-release of Jet Black Enigma backed by demand of both stores that carried it and also you guys, I got sidetracked. All those fragrances, they are out. And as I said, they're awesome. If you buy these from the website, michaelmalul.com, which I have linked in the description, use the code GENTSCENTS, GENTSCENTS, to save yourself 20% off. That's actually good for the whole website, but I mean, come on, this is what you want. Did a video not that long ago on these fragrances where I go into more detail, but both of these are versatile compliment pullers made to be used pretty much in any situation. Blue Ridge, more of your fresh, airy, and a little bit sweet blue fragrance. Terra Nova, a little bit classier, a little bit deeper, and with an aromatic touch to it. And then Jet Black Enigma, of course, spicy, sweet, sexy, best for fall and winter. All right, let's jump into the list. Where to start? Ferragamo Bright Leather. Now, this fragrance right here did not get a rip-roaring applause when it was released. People just kind of went, oh, it's another Ferragamo. Thanks. Maybe I'll hit you up later. Don't call me, I'll call you. That kind of deal. So I wasn't overly keen to pick it up at retail. So I sat on my hands and waited for it to hit discounters. And then it did. Fragrance Buy has it. I think it's like in the mid 50s, which is much more attractive, you know, 55 bucks. As compared to 100 plus. Then I got my hands on it and I realized it's actually pretty good. It reminds me of Aqua Fahrenheit from Dior, which is now long discontinued and was one of my favorite Fahrenheit releases ever. So to have a fragrance that reminds me of that readily available again, yeah, sign me up for that. It's a somewhat watery fresh. Get it? That's the aqua part. Take on a leather scent. Very wearable, easy to pull off. I think it smells fantastic. The performance here is okay, and the presentation looks great. I love the leather feel. The bottle looks classy. This is a really nice scent. It's the type of fragrance, though, that will absolutely 100,000% fly under the radar. Most people not going to really splurge for that one. So it's that type of fragrance that for a small subsect of people is going to be an absolutely killer release. And for most people, they won't even know it exists. After that one, let's talk about this. Tom Ford Ombre Leather Parfum. I'm a big fan of Ombre Leather in all of its iterations. The original Ombre Leather 16, this version, and then the signature line version of Ombre Leather. I like it all. And this one has started to pop up at discounters, but it's not really discounted all that much. Ombre Leather Parfum is a very wearable leather fragrance. It's quite versatile as far as leather scents go, and it's a little bit fresher, maybe a little bit sweeter than the original version of Ombre Leather. So it's actually slightly different than what you would expect from a parfum version. A lot of times when you think parfum, you think it's going to be much darker, heavier, richer. So you would go into it maybe thinking, oh, Ombre Leather Parfum is going to be like a more animalic, tougher to wear leather than the original, but that's actually the opposite of what it is. Wonderful fragrance, great quality, quite expensive, as I said, but absolutely worth it. Niche time. Let's talk about this one first. Cortana Eurofont. Now this one is absolutely more for people that are adventurous, people that want something different, something that's not run of the mill, something that is pushing boundaries a little bit. That's what this is. And depending on who you talk to, they would say, oh no, that's not pushing boundaries a little bit. It's pushing a lot bit. So the idea behind this one is essentially a takeoff, a rocket ascending into space. So the beginning of the fragrance is quite bombastic. You have this gasoline accord, which is quite prominent, this petrol kind of vibe along with leather. As the fragrance dries down, it actually lightens up a little bit, becomes much more easily approachable by your everyday man, but it still is absolutely quite different and stands out quite a lot from pretty much everything else we're talking about here today, or everything in general. Great fragrance, really nice artistic quality to it, and I'll have that linked in the description along with everything else as well. Next up, let's go back into the designer realm. Let's go with something a little bit easier to wear. The new Terre d'Hermès Mezojib Ray. Now, this guy right here has one of my favorite openings of any fragrance that's been released over the past few years. The citrus in here is absolutely fantastic. Very natural smelling, the way that it comes across as compared to your more typical designer citrus. So it has like a little bit of rindiness to it, a little bit of that natural bitterness to it, but it's not so far down that path that it, gets into the arena of like light blue forever. Some people didn't like the opening there. The citrus was too tart and bitter, too rindy. This one has a little bit of that, but not quite so much. It also has a touch of class to it, which makes sense with it being part of the Terre d'Hermès line. Great versatility, awesome fragrance for spring and summertime. Love this. Let's go back into the niche realm with Maresque Sahara Blue. Now that bottle is absolutely awesome looking. Like, it is beautiful little piece of art. It's not really affordable. I think that at retail it's like $350 for a 50 ml size. I think, I'll check. I was a liar. My memory is bunk. 315, not 350. $35 difference. Oh well. So this is vaguely in the wheelhouse of Aventus, Creed's Aventus. It's not really a one-to-one with Aventus at all, but it's one of those fragrances that will remind some people of Creed's Aventus. Really nice opening. You got ginger in there, citrus, apple, very fresh, very uplifting, very bright, well done. The quality is there. And then as it dries down, you actually get a little seaweed note that comes out. I know that doesn't sound great, but it actually smells really good. You have oak moss in here, a little warmth, a little sweetness as you hit that dry down. Really well done fragrance, great versatility, and I've gotten great reactions while wearing this as well, so a lot to like about it. After that, I want to talk about Le Lion from Chanel. Now, this fragrance, it's not really divisive, but some people, when it came out, they weren't crazy about it. They thought Chanel maybe should have done something a little bit different, something a little bit more challenging, push the boundaries a little bit more. But then a lot of people also loved it. And I'm one that loves the fragrance. It's grown on me a bunch since I reviewed it. And I liked it when I reviewed it, but it's one of those ones that as you wear it more, it's one that you just want to keep going back to. It's got like an addictive quality to it. It smells familiar and similar to a fragrance like Shalimar from Guerlain, and also to a lesser extent, something like Coromandel from Chanel. The labdanum in here, really, really well done. Warm, sweet, like this faint hint of dark fruits underneath everything. Get a little patchouli in there as well. It's just a great, classy, classic style of fragrance done extremely well. Back to designers. Narciso Rodriguez for Homme Bleu Noir Parfum. Now, this is a fragrance that puts iris at the forefront of the fragrance. And I'm a big fan of iris, so you already know I like it. You got tonka in here, you have sandalwood, cardamom. It's gonna remind you of fragrances like Valentino Uomo Intense, Dior Homme Intense, Gentleman Eau de Parfum, stuff like that. Got a little leather in there as the fragrance dries down that comes out, some woodiness as well. Lasts a long time. Good performance here, a lot to love, very classy. And if you like any of those fragrances that I mentioned before, absolutely check this one out because it's right there with them. It's in the same tier, it's just as good. Indie fragrance time from Imaginary Authors, Memoirs of a Trespasser, one of my favorites from the house. Basically, my two favorites are this one and then Cape Heartache. They just came out with a new fragrance, but I have not smelled it yet. Not ordered it yet. I'll pick it up at some point. It's actually got kind of a cool aesthetic. It's got like a whole Miami in the 80s aesthetic. As always, the notes are on the back here. Madagascar vanilla, Gaiac wood, myrrh, bergamot, benzoin resin, ambrette seeds. And then the imaginary note here, oak barrels. So this one is a very smoky, rich, deep vanilla. And it's one of my favorite vanilla fragrances of all time. Stuff smells awesome. This stuff is killer for fall and winter time. I love the scent. Look at the coloration on there, deep and rich. Imaginary Authors is a house that I've just always been drawn to. I think the idea behind it is cool. You know, these fake stories by imaginary authors and then the fragrances that kind of convey the story. It's a cool idea. I love it. Some of the fragrances don't work so well for me, but the ones that do, I am in love with, and those I will always keep. If nothing else, it's worth checking out with their like short story collection where you get a bunch of samples, basically their discovery set, because you might find some from the house that you love. Last designer, Stronger With You Oud from Emporio Armani. A little bit difficult to find sometimes. It's been available at Fragrance Buy lately, at least when I checked today, it still was. You know, in the future, maybe it's not, but as of this very moment, you can still find it at least. It has that Stronger With You DNA, that warmth, that gourmand edge, that sweetness that people love, that compliment factor, that performance, everything right here. And you have a nice designer oud accord right over top of it. Very well done. Leaning more into that sweet, kind of mysterious, dark side of things instead of the animalic, fecal side of oud, which, I mean, realistically, not too many people go for that, except for the hardcore lovers of oud. And, you know, I don't mind a poopy oud from time to time, which sounds so freaking weird. But as far as wearability goes, most people are probably not going to go for that. So this one gives you the best of both worlds. It has kind of an exotic flair to it, but it keeps its feet firmly rooted in the wearable side of things. Last fragrance from Zarab Starlight. I had to talk about this one again. The cardamom in here is absolutely awesome. It smells so freaking good. I think at this point, this might be one of my favorite Zarab fragrances because that opening is just, man, it's sweet, it's sparkling. The cardamom is just so addictive and alluring. I would just spray this on over and over and over and over and over again, if nothing else, just to smell that opening again. There's also cinnamon in here, gives a little warmth. There's almond as well in the mid. And as it dries down, it is a little bit more standard, you know, amber and woods, but it still smells very appealing. This stuff is great. So Starlight, gonna wrap this list up. Absolutely worth checking this out. There we go, guys. 10 fragrances that will help elevate your collection. Most of these, not all, but most of these lesser known than your major releases out there. Thank you for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.